workers have been standing up and telling everyone that would listen that they need better wages, they need respect and dignity on the job, and they need a union. All the while, every time they've raised their voice and stood up for their rights, their employers have retaliated against them. It's amazing, with airline profits soaring, this airport has to be an economic engine for the entire city of Chicago. We have thousands of workers who work here and they work in poverty. Their wages are stolen, they're disrespected, their hours are not compensated, and they're just hard-working people trying to take care of their families. Nearly 2 weeks ago, hundreds of workers voted to strike. We made that announcement, and the workers decided not to strike before Thanksgiving. They didn't want to upset other workers' ability to see their families. But today, hundreds of them, starting last night, have gone out and strike. They voted overwhelmingly, and their demands are simple. They want $15 an hour, they want an end to the retaliation, and they want a union. These workers will do whatever it takes to get justice. They did not design to shut the airport down today with this strike. The strike was designed to raise their voice so all could hear their concerns, and the powers to be can start to deal with what's right and take care of these workers in the way they should be taken care of. When adults get up every day and go to work, they should be able to support their families.
Every day, each one of these workers goes to work, and they are faced by managers and companies and a huge industry that is not willing to hear their voices. We are changing that every day at the airport. I want to thank every single person that went out to the airport last week. It marked a year-long battle and even years-long battle in which workers at the airport have been coming together to fight for dignity, for $15, and the right to form their own union. And that is exciting, and I want you to say that again. We had over as many as 2,000 people out at the airport. Hundreds of workers took a stand and said, "This is not right. You will treat me well on the job." Our fight will continue.
That's right.
And it continues tonight. You will hear from various workers who have seen really awful treatment around health and safety issues. About a month ago, workers did a survey of about 300 of their colleagues and coworkers, and they found some really terrible, terrible practices going on at the airport. These workers are security officers, baggage handlers, janitors, people that clean the airplanes between flights, and wheelchair workers. Astoundingly, they are making minimum wage, and many of them, in particular the wheelchair workers, are making sub-minimum wage. Wheelchair workers are not even allowed to ask for a tip while they're working. Baggage handlers suffer terrible back injuries, even finger nips. People who clean the cockpits are also subject to needle pricks and caustic chemicals. And janitors are often subject to insanitary conditions without the right protections. I'm so excited for us all to be here tonight and for us to continue to hear the voices of the workers.
As a cabin cleaner, we go in the airplanes and I clean international airplanes. So the airplanes we clean, they go out for hours, like 14, 18 hours. So when they come, they're very nasty. We go in there, we clean it up, and sometimes it's like 35 minutes or 15 minutes, and you have to go plane to plane, plane to plane. Sometimes we don't even get a break. We get one lunch, and it would be like 30 minutes, maybe not even that. Usually we're supposed to get like breaks in between the planes. We don't. We go plane to plane. We hungry, like they just don't care. Like we ask for breaks because girls do have their personal problems going on. They don't have consideration for it. We just go plain, they just tell us just go plain. They expect us to use the airplane bathrooms, but when we go in there, the bathrooms are nasty. somebody already had used it. We have to wait for somebody to clean it, and there's no time because we have to be cleaning our sections. Other conditions we work with are like the gloves, they're thin. And some of our airplanes, they don't have bags inside their bathrooms. So they expect us to put our hand in there and push the garbage down with the thin gloves that they give us, and there's like all type of bloody stuff, stuff from other people in there. They don't give us the good supplies. Yesterday, we worked 12 hours, and it was wet. Our feet were wet. They don't give us the proper equipment to work with, the right jackets. They just, whatever they just provide you with the shirt and the bag and just the thin gloves that they give you, and they rip, so we have to double them. Now they're starting to limit the wipes that we use for the bathroom, and to be honest, I like to use it for the floor and all of that. They give us one box to split with 3 people. We have to split 2 for bathroom front and back, and one person splits with the galley. So there's 1 box all day. Usually before they were giving us 1 box each, and it will last us all day. And we will use it for the floor and the toilet and the towel for the sink. Now after they had stopped it for a period of time, they weren't giving us wipes. They expected us to use United's supplies, like United napkins to clean the floor and the toilet. And those napkins are not they're not heavy to clean. They break. So I feel it's not sanitary the way we clean. I feel, people should get on there and feel like it's comfortable. We shouldn't be having to clean with the same rag they clean the bathroom with for the table. We shouldn't have to use the same solution for everything. We shouldn't have to clean the galley with this and then clean the tables with it. Clean the toilet with this and then have the table touch it. My supervisor has 1 towel all day. She goes, wipes this. If it's dirty, she'll come and show it to you. She'll keep wiping all day with that 1 towel. The other day, she wiped the bathroom floor with it, and one of the coworkers didn't wipe the floor right, but there's no time and not good equipment to scrub the floor with. She wiped it, and the floor was still dirty. She showed it to her, and that same towel, she kept it to wipe everything else all day. I feel they should give us multiple towels, not just 1 towel to clean everybody's table. It's not sanitary to go table to table with 1 towel.
If we understand the history of this particular part of the industry, the airline industry, there'll be some important lessons that we ought to think about, because we've seen this same pattern over and over again in other industries. So in an effort to lower cost, the airlines began to outsource these jobs some 15 or 20 years ago. So if we think about what that means, when you outsource a job to lower cost, that means first, you pay workers less, and you don't provide benefits. And also what frequently happens, and has happened at O'Hare and many other airports, you begin to skimp on the things workers need to do their job, like towels, like safety equipment, and seat belts. I want to remind people that it was just a year ago that a part-time worker at Midway was killed driving around on those little trucks. I don't know exactly how many airport workers are killed each year, but it's not an unusual event. So when we consider the debate and discussions that go on, especially in our state, where our governor has a turnaround agenda, this is his turnaround agenda, you just heard it. Yeah. To outsource, to weaken people's rights, and to lower costs. Occupational hazards are not only a danger to workers, and I'll come back to that in a minute, but in many jobs, service jobs that touch the public, they are a danger to the public. So those towels that clean the bathrooms and then the tray that you sit in front of have a potential to hurt those of us that buy seats on those planes. When there is a problem in the airport of sanitation, it can not only affect people who fly, but our families and friends that come to drop us off and pick us up. This is a public utility. While it's owned privately, it is a basic service that the public uses, and anything that weakens health and safety for airport workers threatens the health and safety of everyone who uses the airport. That ought to concern everyone. But every person in this country who has a job has the right, according to American law and the OSHA Act, to a healthy and safe work environment. They have a right to be able to come into work and expect to go home healthy, not injured, not sick, and certainly not dead. And so in our airports, the hazards that exist are well known. They're not a mystery. It's not like what our brothers and sisters talked about tonight are a surprise to anyone. They weren't a surprise before the jobs were outsourced, and they're not a surprise today. We know about them. First, we have to be concerned about biological hazards. Not only flu and other diseases that, let me tell you, by the way, an airplane is like an enclosed tin can, so it's a very hotbed of infectious diseases in general. But other things happen. People are in airports for hours. Diabetics, people that use needles. These needles often have nowhere to be disposed of safely. That means workers who are cleaning up can be exposed to them. Travelers who are compromised, often soil and wet wheelchairs and other areas of the airport, and if workers aren't trained and given the proper safe equipment to clean up after this is a problem. Airports, by definition, are noisy. Noise not only causes hearing loss, it causes other significant health problems. Our airport, O'Hare, is subject to extreme heat and cold. Be in one of those planes trying to clean it in August when the ventilation is turned off, and think about the heat stress and stroke and problems that exist there. Be there tomorrow when it's going to be cold and there's no heat on in those planes, or you're waiting for a plane to pull up. Workers have a right to be protected from those extreme heat and cold conditions. We've heard some discussion from our driver about the difficulties of driving around. This is one of the major areas where people are actually killed in the airport. So there are all kinds of hazards from the trucks that drive around, from other mechanical equipment like the belts that bring up our bags and take the bag down. It's not easy to do this, but if you can imagine working in that plane, in the belly of the plane, stacking bags where you can't even stand up straight. Think about the kind of ergonomic and muscular problems that presents. And last but not least, there are all kinds of chemicals involved in the planes and in cleaning the terminal. People in this country have a right to know what chemicals they're working with so that they can take the necessary means to protect themselves. It's very difficult on many jobs, but particularly when you're working in these contracted jobs, to get the information you need about the character of those chemicals and what damage they can do. So even though we say in print that workers have a right to a safe and healthy workplace, that can't happen in practice unless workers receive training about the potential hazards on their job. And they have a right to get that training in a language they understand. Just because people work for contractors, Scrubs and Prospect in this case, does not excuse the airlines or our city from providing a healthy and safe workplace. And to treat workers as though they're little shuttle bugs going between the different people is absurd. All of the employers, the contractor, the airlines, and the city of Chicago have a responsibility to make sure that training occurs, that the right equipment is there, and that people have what they need to be safe. But the real problem that was said in everybody's talk tonight, whether they worked in the galley of a plane or whether they drove a truck or whether they worked in the terminal, is what we're really talking about are basic human rights. No one in this country should go to work every day and live in poverty. And while I support the fight for 15, that's not enough money.
That's right.
We need to work on the basic notion that if you work 40 hours a week, you have a right to be able to have enough money to take care of your family. You have a right to be able to have enough money to take a vacation. You have a right to be able to go to the store, and if you celebrate the holiday, buy a gift for your child or your grandchild. This is a basic human right. You have a right to go to work and expect not to be cheated out of your wages. That happens all too often, not only among airport workers, but others. What that amounts to in plain English is theft. You have a right to organize a union. It's a basic human right. And to do this without fear of retaliation or being fired. And be clear about this. If we allow the right to organize unions to be weakened, it's not only airport workers that'll be singing the blues. It'll be all of us. Because it's unions that provide our best defense for democracy.
The fight you're in, the fight we're in together, is not just for you, it's for all of us. That was the testimony from medicine. That's the testimony from economics. And that's the testimony from morality. You are working on our behalf when you work for your self-interest. My health is dependent on your getting a fair shake. So please do continue. Please work for not just yourselves, but for all of us. And then for those of us who are not airport workers, we have a responsibility too. Medical, economic, but we also primarily have a moral responsibility. Some of us here have voices. We have access to people who can bring about change. And if we remain silent and inactive, it's an act of immorality.
What a real living wage floor negotiated by a union would mean for airport workers. What's a wage floor? A wage floor establishes an enforceable lower limit to wages. And we can think of three different ways to get it: through a living wage ordinance, which we have, through a minimum wage law, which we have. But if we really want a wage floor, what we're going to need is a collectively bargained wage out at the airport. That's going to be obvious. What does it cost to live in the Chicago area? Whoa, 2 adults, 2 children. These aren't my numbers. This is Amy Glassmeyer from MIT. Couldn't be a more impeccable source. She says two adults working full-time, 2 kids need $69,500 in order to live for a year. That means each of those people working on average has to be making close to $17 an hour. 15 isn't enough, right? One adult with 1 child needs an annual income before taxes of $51,000, an hourly wage of $24.73. If you're a single mom with one kid, that's what you need to live. So what's included in that? These aren't unreasonable numbers. So, I mean, we're not talking luxury here. We're talking about $1,065 a month. We're talking about $1,172 for childcare, unless you can talk your grandma into doing it, right? We're talking about $900 a month for transportation, $520 a month for medical. That's for the family of 4. And, you know, God help you if you get too sick, right?
Hi, I'm here fighting for 15. My name is Monique. I have 4 children. I'm a single parent. I have 2 jobs that I need to fight for 15.
Fight, 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 fight! Fight, 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 fight! Fight, 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 fight!
I came to Chicago, and out of all places that I wanted to work in, it was an airport, Chicago Airport, the biggest place I could work in and make a good living without having to depend on the system. But guess what? I do depend on the system with a good job, a so-called good job. Why a so-called good job? It only pays $10.50 an hour.
That ain't right.
Your overtime is not actually paid. They keep your overtime. I know firsthand of many employees, co-workers, that have to live and sleep and eat from cabins because they cannot make it. Because they have family who they need to feed. But nobody knows that out there unless someone from our industry comes out and speaks it out. Nobody knows until someone speaks out, and that person is me. I will speak out for every single worker in O'Hare. I am not here only for me. I am here for all my co-workers that are in need, that deserve respect, that do not need to be treated like the garbage they pick up from these cabins.
That's right, sister.
It is not fair for anybody to have to live under minimum wage, such poorly paid in a secured area like O'Hare Airport, where you have to go through security clearance for everything. That means if they can pay for that, they can pay for a good worker. And a good worker will work very hard. We're not even well paid and we still work hard. We wake up every morning. We work 2 jobs if we have to sustain our family. Why do we need 2 jobs when we're supposed to be well paid in a place like O'Hare Airport? It don't matter what company subcontracted United Airport or O'Hare Airport or whoever subcontracted any other company. We are still workers, and we work hard for our money. We're not asking for special treatment. We are asking for decent treatment. We're asking for decent wages. We're asking... No, we're not asking. We're demanding respect.
That's right.
We're tired of asking. We are tired of being pushed around, treated like animals at the end of a whip. We are human beings, we're not animals.
That's right.
Only because we are immigrants, migrated from other countries, and they think they can't scare us. And I say us because even though I am an American, they tried scaring me. I am not afraid. And I know everyone here is not afraid anymore.
All right.
Here day after day after day. But we will be respected and we will be heard.
All right.
So with this said, Mayor Emanuel, I hope you're listening. Ginger Evans, I do hope you're listening. United and American Airlines, we know we do right by, you will do right by us. We are sick of taking and talking.
It's okay.
We are sick of being retaliated against.
That's right.
We are ready to take action, and we have demonstrated it. We are on strike, and we will do it